We have a couple of guests in the studio with us this half hour and talking about some medical issues too, and they're also available if we have a question or comment too from the listening audience to answer some of those questions. But first of all, Dr. Jonathan Tripp was with us last week from Tripp Family Medicine right here in Twin Falls, and he joins us with Better Health on Wednesday mornings between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. And first of all, Doctor, you brought along a guest with you too as well.
I did. This is Logan Hudson. He's a nurse, actually, what's called a BSN, Bachelor's of Nursing, from the South Central Public Health District, who is a great resource for us as an office. And we'll talk more about that. I'm going to let Logan tell us a lot about what they do at South Central Public Health District.
Yeah, first of all, Logan, welcome to the studios.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Dr. Tripp and Bill.
And right off the top, you have a number of things you'd like to discuss today too, as well.
Yeah, we have. We're going to talk about immunizations. We're going to talk about pediatric health at our office. But we have some interest as we go forward with these Wednesday morning shows on health. We're talking about better health, but it has a wide range of topics. We'd like to hear from, especially the moms. You can get a hold of us on Facebook and at Tripp Family Medicine on Facebook, and tell us, what would you like to hear about? What topics would you like us to cover? What's important to you? And these are things that we can use in the near future and address those issues, because that's an important part of our practice.
Of course, you point out getting in touch with you too online as well, because in this day and age, everybody's got that presence, whether it be Facebook or a website or both.
Correct. And their website is trippfamilymedicine.com. So that's one way. Always the telephone works as well. That's 933-4400. But we want to hear from the listeners. What would you like to hear about? And in particular, right now, in my mind, we're focusing on some pediatric or women's health issues. And that has a wide range of topics. We want to know what you want to know about.
And we should also point out too, your office has been growing by leaps and bounds. When that happens, though, that means you need additional staff.
Yeah, it does. I appreciate you bringing that up. Right now, we are looking for either a physician assistant or a nurse practitioner that would like to work in a family medicine environment that we really have a lot of fun. We have high dynamics. I do some cosmetic stuff. We, see pediatrics. Yesterday, I got to identify somebody who had new onset atrial fibrillation, so we run the gamut.
And Doctor, a couple of days ago, I just had to pitch this out to you today. I was looking through the Idaho Statesman, and there was a story that said that Idaho, because you mentioned immunizations, Idaho, when you look at the numbers, we're among the lowest in the country for getting children immunized, and the numbers in some of the cities around the state are incredible. My daughter was immunized when she was a little girl. I've talked about that on the air and some of my concerns about it and the like, but in the long run, she's probably better off. And I was immunized as a kid. In the long run, I feel I'm better off. But we have this ongoing debate, and I know a lot of parents out there, they're just not sure, I guess is what they're telling us.
Yep. And I think a lot of that has to do with information, whether it's accurate, whether it's a credible source, whether it's somebody's opinion. That's really important. And I try to maintain an atmosphere in my office that if you have your own opinion, we're not going to cut you down because you don't agree with the General Medical Society. On the other hand, I will tell you as a physician, I've seen kids die of diseases that could have been prevented, and that changes your whole perspective. I know there's concerns and we can address those, but at the same time, if you come into my office and you say, you know what, I'm just not sure about this, let's talk about it. We can even do it more slowly, and I think Logan can address that because they do that at South Central Public Health District.
Logan Hudson joining us in studio as well today, and you're getting a lot of those questions, I'm sure, as well.
Yes, we do field calls on immunizations, the side effects of them, what kids need before school, what kids need to go on vacation. We do that pretty much daily. We take calls on immunizations.
And I was going to say, can you often answer those questions to the point where maybe you actually put people's minds to rest?
We try. We have a pretty knowledgeable staff. We like to think that we specialize in immunizations because we do so many. We have some staff members that give well over 1,000, 2,000 vaccines a year. So it's We do take pride in that. We do know statistics and we know numbers and we do talk to parents. Fortunately for us, we don't talk to a lot of people who are completely anti-vaccine because they don't have a reason to call us to talk about
I guess
immunization.
you wouldn't see them if they're that strongly in their thoughts about it, right?
Correct. We get more the folks that want to come in and maybe don't want to stick to the recommended schedule, or they have questions about the recommended schedule or want their own schedule. And of course we recommend what is recommended by the CDC. But if a parent is willing to give the shots on their own schedule or give the vaccines on their own schedule, we will support them in that and help them come up with a schedule that works for both of us as well.
We've got more coming up in just a couple of minutes. I do want to point out, if you'd like to touch base with either the doctor or with Logan, give us a call. If you haven't jotted our number down and you don't know what it is 736-0300. Write that down. Give us a call on the other side of our break. We have plenty more coming up. In fact, as the doctor pointed out, he has some thoughts about other issues you may have, and he's willing to field some of those questions and perhaps address some of those things not only today but in coming weeks. It's 8:44 at our studios. News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. This is Top Story. Dr. Jonathan Tripp is joining us in studio from Tripp Family Medicine this morning. He's also brought along Logan Hudson, who's addressing some of these immunization issues. And we should point out, as long as we have the medical professionals in studio, of course, we're willing to field your calls on a number of medical issues. And the telephone number, if you'd like to reach us, 736-0300. That is 736-0300. Bill Colley with you on Top Story this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And we were in the break. We were talking a little bit about, another point about all of this is that we have some disease concerns, especially about some illnesses that we didn't see for 10, 15 years in this country. Yeah. And Dr. Measles would be one of those.
Yeah, in fact, Logan had brought up the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control. That's the federal government's body for really everything relating to infectious disease. And so they track all the measles outbreak that's recently known, and Disneyland has gotten all the bad press about this, but there's actually 3 different outbreaks that have happened even in January so far this year. The big news is in 2000, we were declared a measles-free country, and the only measles cases came from travelers going outside of the country and bringing it back. And who's bringing it back? Unimmunized, travelers. So those outbreaks would tend to show up in pockets of where people are not getting immunizations. So the CDC has been able to track this pretty easily, but the numbers are usually under 100 per year from about 2000 to 2008. It went over 100 for the first time. In 2011, went to about 200. 2014, we had over 600 cases.
Oh.
And so it's a big change. And then this year, in the first 2 months, we're at 174. So we're well on track to outdo even last year, which was a incredibly high number of cases. So it's starting to show up. And another good example is pertussis, or whooping cough. As a medical student, we talked about these, but pretty much we're told you're not hardly ever going to see these, so just in case you have to know about them. Well, now I have to actually know them and diagnose them, and that's changed in my 10 or 12 year career. And I watch as I moved from the kind of southwest to the far west coast in Oregon, and Washington had over 40,000 cases of whooping cough that were formally identified. And that's a huge number that totally could have been avoided. And these are diseases that cause serious harm or death among kids and the elderly. And what's really interesting is I looked at measles, and of course you would think the under 5 age group would be at risk. But who's the other high risk group? Any adult over age 20 who's not immunized. We're not talking the 80 and 90-year-olds. We're talking anybody over 20. So this is serious stuff, and it's very transmissible. 9 out of 10 people that are even in contact with somebody that has measles, if they're not immunized, they'll get it. So it's very contagious.
I know. In fact, growing up in a small town myself, a third of our population happened to be Amish families.
Yes.
And in fact, in that pocket of Western New York, Western Pennsylvania, and Ohio, you have a lot of those communities, and it seems that we've got those in Oregon and Washington and places as well. And for that reason, you start to see these numbers, I think, spike because they were opposed in many cases to the immunization. I believe we have a caller with us. No, I think our caller may have had our question answered, but I'll give the number out one more time in case the caller is still trying to get through. 736-0300. That is 736-0300. And by the way, this is Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine this morning until 9 o'clock today on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I think our caller has decided to chime back in. We were hopeful that if their phone quit after a couple of minutes, they'd be able to get back through. So we'll take a question here. You're on the air, and good morning.
Good morning, guys. I just started listening a few minutes ago, so I apologize if you've already answered this. Both of my kids, when I got them immunized, both of them had horrendously high fevers. Now, I knew about this possibility that people talk about, maybe getting autism or whatnot from the immunizations. So I had asked my pediatric physician if there was any way you could spread out the shots or whatever. And he said the only way that the vaccines come each time is in massive packets. You get more than one vaccine with each dose, each shot. Is there any way you can actually order those spread out?
Logan, I'm going to let you answer that.
Well, some of the vaccines do come packaged together, or combination vaccines is what we call them. So some of them may have 3 or more antigens inside the actual vaccine dose. And those are the ones we would typically use to reduce the amount of needle pokes to give kids. But you can separate them. I mean, we at South Central Public Health have all of the vaccines in combination form and as separate forms. Some people, prefer to space them out like that and maybe do the separate forms this month and next month instead of just 3 or 4 in one dose at one time. So yes, there is a way to do it. I should mention that fever is a common reaction to vaccines. One of the ways that we know the body is working is by a fever. We almost expect it. Not everybody gets it, but as long as it's able to be managed with some Tylenol or ibuprofen, if the child is old enough, it is a common reaction, and we try to make parents know that before they leave.
I think we have another caller with us, and you're up next on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX, and this is Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine as well. And your question or comment?
Yeah, I was wondering if a child, say for instance, came in with an illness of some type, or maybe even a broken arm or whatever, and you noticed that they hadn't had their immunizations, is that something that's automatically done? Is it something that the parents are talked to about? Because I kind of see the time when the federal government is going to require that everyone gets these, and it's kind of scary, the thought of it, because I can talk about at least one instance where a young man went to the hospital with a dog bite, and they see that he didn't have his shots, gave him his shots, and he died twice during the incident. They medevaced him from Northern California to San Francisco, and he grew up from 2 years old until today in a wheelchair and head bobbing, and I mean, he's just totally messed up.
Well, let's get a response from that.
Well, number one, I'm not sure. You'd have to go back through the whole medical record of what he was given, because it sounds like he had an anaphylactic or some serious reaction to something given, whether it was the only shot I can think of from an immunization point of view on a dog bite would have been a booster tetanus shot. And so unless that was something that there are some people that'll have an allergic reaction to it, but that would be extremely rare. But, I'm not saying it didn't happen. The poor guy's in a wheelchair. So, but I guess I just need more information. But yeah, if you had a dog bite, I'd recommend a tetanus shot. I can't make you. And to address your first question, when someone comes into our office and their immunization status is, shall we say, deficient, the recommendation is to get it, but at the same time, it's still really the responsibility of the parent or the patient to get that done. It's really just a recommendation at this point. There's no governmental force in you're not required. It's a recommendation, and now that we're seeing these outbreaks, the recommendation is stronger again because these immunizations, like the tetanus shot, it's not about the dog bite. It's about dying of lockjaw. That's what you're avoiding. You're not helping with the dog bite. You're helping avoid what might have been introduced by the dog bite.
We have, I believe, another caller with us on Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine this morning on 1310 KLIX, and your question or comment as well.
Good morning, Dr. Tripp. I got two questions for you. One of them is how does one go about giving you the references of a PA, and the other, what is attributed the measles attack? Can you highlight, please, where does it come from and not this overhyped? Is there a certain purpose where it came from?
Yes.
Can you please answer those two questions, please?
Yep. As far as contacting our office about like a PA, or we also even need nurses. So I'm looking for everybody right now. We are growing. And contact our office. 933-4400 is our phone number, and you can contact us by Facebook as well. It'd be a good choice. And our website is informational, but Facebook's probably a better contact. As far as where the measles outbreak came in Disneyland, they believe it was transported by travelers from the Philippines who came and visited, and then contacted others in the park, and then it spread over several weeks because measles, just being in the room, like with somebody with a cold, can, even after the person has left the room for 2 to 3 hours, what they call the airborne droplets are available just to be inhaled, and you're infected. So just being in the wrong line at the wrong ride, you can catch it if you're not immunized.
Want to thank him for the telephone call. We should point out again as well that they can reach us at 736-0300. And of course, Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine is a regular feature Wednesday mornings between 8:30 and 9 o'clock on News Radio 1310 KLIX. Logan, as long as you're here, could you give your website address too as well?
Yes, sir. It's www.phd5.idaho.gov, and we also have a Facebook page, just South Central Public Health District.
And again, Doctor, can you repeat yours?
Yeah. Our Facebook is Tripp Family Medicine, and website is trippfamilymedicine.com, all one word.
I know you had something else you wanted to add.
I did. It's basically, we brought in South Central Public Health District because we use them exclusively for our immunizations. Most of what goes on in our office is we don't do the general pediatric immunizations. We do have some specialty ones, but for the most part, we use the health district as our main resource, and there's some great advantages because all of your records are in one place. It's held through the state ISIS system, so it's never lost. You don't have to go to multiple doctors to collect your kids' immunization records over their lifespan. So that's been a great advantage. But also, it's a very nice facility, much better than any public health location that I've ever been to all over the country. So I feel very comfortable sending patients there. They're comfortable. And a big advantage for us with the moms and the children are when they come to our office, their experience is a positive experience. They don't have the over and over, every time I go to the doctor, I get hurt, and then develop this fear of being at the doctor's office for the rest of their life. So it plays well for us. They do an excellent job. And when I get to see the kids, they're ready to play instead of fearing me. So it's a lot of fun.
I didn't have that issue because our doctor, he delivered me when I was a baby, and then he had the horse farm that abutted our backyard. I got to know him so well that when I went to his office, he'd be talking to me. I'd never even noticed sometimes that he'd given me the shot.
He's slicker than I am.
We should point out we're wrapping up in a couple of minutes, but for people who do have some thoughts or concerns and maybe future topics they'd like you to address, could they call the office?
Absolutely, yeah. And like I say, Facebook is a nice way to kind of make a post, and we can look at those because I'd really like to address the topics that moms are worrying about.
And of course, your office is directly across from the main post office on Fillmore Street. And so people who are looking for someone who might be conveniently located, you can get there from a lot of places in town.
Yeah, if you're shopping, we're near it usually.
Yes, very close by with all the major shopping going on in the neighborhood. There's going to be some other topics we'll talk about too in the coming weeks. I know, just if we could maybe briefly touch on what those will be in the next few weeks.
Oh, you're you're catching me off guard. I've got a lot in my mind, but some are skin topics. Everything from avoiding cancer to what can I do about looking younger. Part of my background for about 5 years in the Phoenix area was all cosmetics, so it's an area that's a favorite for me. Pediatric concerns about illness, when to see the doctor, and some sports medicine topics.
I was going to say, over the weekend, I read a story in the newspaper about Joan Collins. She's 81 years old, and the reporter said her skin looks really good. And so she was asked why, and she said, because I've stayed out of the sun.
Yeah, no, that's about the single best thing you can do. But in Idaho, I fight the lack of vitamin D, so I try to balance the sun exposure with feeling good and having enough vitamin D. But if you have skin problems or have had too much sun exposure, we can help out.
Again, very quickly, the website
is trippfamilymedicine.com, all one word.
All right. I want to thank you for coming by again. And Logan, thank you for joining him too as well.
Thank you.
We left some folks on the line this week here at the end of the program, but keep in mind we get to tee this up and do it all over again next week between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine will be a regular feature here on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com and Top Story. Coming up next, going to be talking a little bit about city government. We have a member of the City Council coming by. We'll spend a few minutes with us following news at 9 o'clock from the Fox Radio Network.